Thank you, everybody, for coming. My name is Patrick Botts Forbes. I am the LAFD CERT Central Bureau Coordinator and the Central Bureau Neighborhood Team Director. What we are doing tonight is we're reformulating the Neighborhood Team Program session setup one more time now that we have EMD on board and able to present Rylan. And this session is more of an overview of what's going to happen over the next 6 months, 7 months if you include the drill. We've invited people from all over the city to attend. These programs are always open because sometimes you can't make a certain session, and it's always great to be able to make it up in another community session. But these are all pretty much going to be the same information for each neighborhood, maybe tailored a little bit specifically to a specific neighborhood, but general enough that if you attend a different community or different neighborhood session, you're still able to get the important information. So thank you, everybody, for coming. I would like to introduce Crisanta Gonzalez with LA City EMD. Don't start your presentation yet, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Crisanta Gonzalez. I am an emergency manager for the city of Los Angeles. I've been in the city as an emergency manager since 2016. I started with the LA Department of Transportation, and then I moved over to Emergency Management Department. I was promoted recently to Division Chief, so currently I am the Division Chief over both the Planning Division and the Community Preparedness and Engagement Division. Under which this NTP program lies under that. Prior to that, I was with the state of California for 16 years under various departments such as the State Controller's Office under John Chung and the Department of Water Resources. In the Department of Water Resources, I was in their training office. As a training officer, I was a manager in the Flood Operations Center in Sacramento, and I was also in their operations and maintenance division at Oroville Dam. But prior to that, I was a heavy equipment operator before I got into government service. So I have quite a bit of knowledge behind me on emergency preparedness, safety, and et cetera. And we're happy to be here with NTP, with Patrick and Chin. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for having us. We're delighted that we're going to be able to incorporate Rylan as the information on Rylan as part of the overall NTP program. And we're very excited, and I hope that you get a lot of information from my presentation tonight. And please feel free to reach out to me. Patrick and Chin and Captain Gross all have my contact information. So if you have any follow-up questions after my presentation, please feel free to reach out to me. I carry my work cell phone 24/7, so I'm available via text, if nothing else. I'm not always in the office, but I do always have a cell phone with me. So thank you. That's my little introduction. Back to Patrick.
Thank you, Crisanta. And we got Chin finally in. Chin, why don't you introduce yourself and introduce what we're doing here tonight?
Well, good evening to everybody. My name is Chin Thomasangsi. For those of you in Point Fermin, I am the LAFD South Bureau Coordinator and have been for probably the last 6 years that I can recall. I actually handle CERT operations in the South Bureau area where you guys are located. You folks are located in an area known as Battalion 6. And that battalion designation comes from our LAFD designations. And I pretty much handle everything that is CERT. But as part of the neighborhood team program, I am, like Patrick, one of the area directors of the program, and am really happy to have everyone here tonight. So we can find out more about me later. I know we're running a little behind time, so Patrick, all yours.
Do we want to have somebody from Point Fermin introduce, or we'll have them say a few words at the tail end?
I would say let's bring up Mary Ellen Barnes right up to the front of the room. This virtual room, whatever this room is.
Yep, put her on the spot.
Yeah. Okay, well, some of these people here are Point Fermin people, not all 52 of us though, but that's great. I didn't know I was supposed to say anything, so I don't really know what to say other than this has been a long time coming, and I'm so thrilled that we're finally here because it's really important, I think, and for our neighborhood For those of you on Carolina Place and Peck, sort of roughly, I don't know, 30th, 31st Street up to 36th or 7th in that area. If you're in there, you're part of our group. So
And
back to Patrick or Chin.
And Mary Ellen, I want to say, I know it has been at times frustrating and everything, but I got to tell you, you're coming in at a perfect time because this is the first presentation that we've had with LAEMD and Crescenta. So you're getting the extra special gift tonight. Makes up for some of that frustration out there, but we're here now and we're ready to go. Patrick.
Yeah, and that's important to note that this program is not static. This is not something that we wrote and then it's going to remain the same exact thing indefinitely. This is going to be constantly changing, evolving, and adjusting. And as we bring our team leaders together for their input, it's going to be critical so that we make this program better and constantly adapting as needed. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and let Crescenta get started. Hopefully she's able to get back on her phone.
Well, I'm going to try and stay on my laptop, but if it keeps glitching, I'll probably jump off and jump back on my phone. Or should I just jump on my phone right now, Patrick, to avoid any issues?
Yeah, go ahead. You're breaking up.
Okay.
Am I still here?
I believe you are. I can hear you.
Your screen is not coming up.
Okay, that was interesting. Zoom gave a crash report.
Oh, that's helpful.
You're still here. Patrick, you did not disappear in the transporter beam on the way over here.
Let's blame it on Carl.
Sure, why not? Who was that? Oh, I know who that was. I know.
That was the Gigante boss.
Bang, zoom to the moon. Rico.
All right, as soon as we get Crescenta, it's like we will get right into this program. So
I am here and I am here ready to go. So I just dialed in on my phone instead since my laptop is having issues.
All right then, well, we're ready to go and the show is yours.
Great. All right. So again, you can go to the next slide. I've already introduced myself. So as many of you may know, LA is ranked one of the highest susceptible to a multitude of natural disasters, depending on where you live. If you live in the valley, we have, the high wind events and the fire events. If you live on the coast, there's always a tsunami event. If you live in any part of LA City, there's the earthquake, of course, events. And there's also mudslides and water related issues and Santa Ana wind related issues. So we are lucky enough to be one of the highest ranked counties and cities for disasters. Out of all the disasters, I think we hit about 10 of them, 10 out of all of them. Next slide. Today, I want to talk a little bit about Ready Your LA Neighborhood and neighborhood preparedness. The city of Los Angeles created the Ready Your LA Neighborhood. How many, by just raising your hand, have heard of the Map Your Neighborhood tool? Yeah, so what we did was we took the Map Your Neighborhood tool and we created a program around it, Ready Your LA Neighborhood. So it's a way to give neighbors the tools and to organize, to respond together in the first golden hour, which is immediately after an earthquake or when there's a warning that they need to evacuate. This fits in nicely with the CERT program because once you complete your Ryland program at your neighborhood level in that first hour, then you're able to go to your staging area and report in how your street looks. So it ties in well with what's already established in the CERT network. Next slide. So here in the city, we have approximately 4 million residents, 6 million during certain times of the day when when people are coming into work or to go to school, then we have more like 6 million residents. We have less than 10,000 LAPD officers and less than 5,000 LA firefighters. And currently in my staff, I have just 4 emergency bureau managers, disaster bureau managers, 1 per each bureau. Our bureaus are aligned the same as LAPD and LA Fires. So we have the Central Bureau, South Bureau, Valley Bureau, and the West Bureau. So I only have 1 per bureau. And as many of you know, in the Valley itself, there's, I think, 1.7 million people. So that's 1 individual to try and get the word out about Ready Your LA Neighborhood. A little bit about why Ryland is going to be needed. In the event of a wildfire, or even more so of a catastrophic event like an earthquake, you can see that those numbers, they don't logistically align. So if we have catastrophic level earthquake, which we're waiting on, that's going to affect a large percentage of that 4 million. Now, if you do the math, are we going to have enough firefighters to respond to each one of our streets? And unfortunately, it's not because they don't want to, it's not because we're not trying to get to you, it's just that the numbers aren't there. So we only have, and the firefighters and the police officers are going to prioritize their response. So that doesn't mean that your neighborhood is not important. It just means that the hospitals, schools, senior centers, any kind of facility, assisted living facility, those are going to be raised to the top of the priority, and then neighborhoods will come down after that. So if those first responders can't get to you, who can get to you? Can we go to the next slide, please? And the answer, of course, is your neighbors can get to you. So as I mentioned, I have 1 disaster manager per bureau. And so we rely heavily on outreach from the grassroots efforts, such as here, LAFD CERT. And the wonderful thing about this team program is that you're already combining many of the entities that we seek out to get us invited to the meetings to talk about it. So your NTP program, our NTP program, already has the structure in place to include LAPD Neighborhood Watch, LAFD CERT, the neighborhood councils, homeowners associations, and help us spread the word of mouth so that the neighbors can understand that they're going to need each other during any event, whether, regardless of what the event is, your neighbor is going to be the first one to be there to help you before an outside help arrives. Next slide. And the next slide. So Ryland is built on 6 pillars. We're going to show you the 6 pillars, and what it does is it helps neighbors learn how to prepare, organize, practice, connect, communicate, and learn. So let's talk about prepare first. Next slide. So when Ryland does is you host a workshop in your home, and it'll teach you how to respond to an emergency. So it'll prepare you on what you can do with the 9 steps after a catastrophic or after any kind of emergency, or the 8 steps you can take to help safely evacuate all of your neighbors and identify vulnerable neighbors that would need extra assistance. That goes hand in hand with organizing. Part of the Map Your Neighborhood tool, as we'll get into a little bit, is it has a sheet in it that lists where when you have your 90-minute workshop, all you and your neighbors get together and you list out every adult name, every child name, the dog's names, the cat's names, the parrot's names. You list on a sheet, a viable email, a phone number to contact, and then you connect it to the map. So if you have 15 homes, you count them out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 15, and you say, okay, house number 1, and then in the block for house number 1, you fill out the information, and you do that all together as a team at this workshop. And the second part of the great thing about organizing using Ryland is that Map Your Neighborhood tool also offers a skills and equipment list. So there's a list of skills and a list of equipment, and you go around the room and you ask all your neighbors, okay, and one of the items on there under skills is who is CERT trained. So, we could say Chin in house number 5 is CERT trained. Mary in house number 2 is a nurse. Ted in house number 14 is a psychologist or a crisis counselor. So you go through the list of these skills, and then the equipment is who has a chainsaw, who has ladders, who has ropes. So you get all of that, And so every neighbor has that in their hand, and that's a great way to organize. So now you know who lives where, you know who's going to need help, and you know what tools and equipment are on your street, and also the skills. What if there's a plumber, a carpenter, a firefighter? So now you know who has the skills to use that equipment. Then we also want you to practice. So as you all know, disasters can overwhelm the 911 line. So what we want you to do is we want you to practice your Ryland plan. What we'll do is that we'll use our notification system, Notify LA, and we'll help you create messages. So let's say 6 months or a year down the line, you call us and you say, hey, I want to practice my Ryland. Great. We coordinate, we have you collect the cell phones and we put it into the system, or house phones or emails, however you want it to go. And then we'll program the computer to send out the alerts. Okay, it is step number 1, check on yourself and your family. Step number 2, fill up your bathtubs. And it'll send that text or that call every 5, 7, 10 minutes. We work with the resident to see what time space they want. And then we're also available to be there at your drill. So at the end, when you say, okay, step number 7, go meet at your gathering spot and discuss the scenario and see what's going on and break up into teams, we're there to hand out, or we give it to you ahead of time and you can hand out scenarios and you have a small little tabletop exercise and you talk through these events that are going to happen on your street. Okay, the tree fell down over here, or the power line fell down over here, or Bob broke his arm, or the dog got out. And you talk through these things. Okay, what do we do? Let's look at our skills list. Let's look at our equipment list. How are we going to, in this event, how would we work this? What does this look like? Or, so-and-so's at the store, but their kids are home alone. What do we do? Oh, let's activate the care center. And you've already pre-identified during your Ryland workshop, you've pre-identified where you're going to meet, and you've pre-identified a possible home for a care center, which is just for the first hour or 2 while you stabilize your street. And then after that, everybody's got to leave. They don't get to camp out at this house. So we can help you practice that. Next slide. All right, so the next part is connect. While we're at your workshop, we try and get everybody to either at the workshop or later on connect to our Notify LA system. That's a system that the City of Los Angeles uses to notify you in the event of a disaster. And the reason you can initially sign up by texting the word ready to 888-777, but the only problem with that is that if we're specifying a certain small area and you've only done this first step, you're only going to get the general announcements. So we need you to follow up and fill in all your information, your area, your home address, zip code, and fill out your profile so that when we do a geofencing to a specific area, it will pick you out. If you don't have your full profile in, it won't pick you out. It'll exclude you if you haven't listed your zip code and your address. So we highly encourage you to do this first step and then to follow up and complete your profile. So again, if you text the word ready to 888-777, that will get you started, but please go to readyla.org to complete your sign up process. During this meeting, we also talk about communication. How are you going to communicate on your street? Do you have FRS radios? Do you have walkie-talkies? Do you have a bunch of teenagers who can be runners? Are you going to put them on a team? What is this going to look like? What is realistically this communication method? Because when you send out the teams, there's one team lead that comes back and reports to the coordinator. And we go over what each team does, the 4 teams, and how they report back. So we talk about how are you going to communicate? And then we take it one step further and say, okay, what's your communication plan for your family? In the event of a disaster, if this person's at the store, this person's at college, this person's at the gym, what's your communication plan? We talk about the different viabilities, what's going to work best, text over a phone call. So we have those discussions, and you can have those discussions with your neighbors. Oh, you're next door to, my neighbor is 95 years old, but she sent her son to the Ryland plan. Okay, you're live next door to my grandma. Can you please go check on her and text me at this number? So you're able to have those discussions of what that's going to look like, how you're going to communicate to your family. And then we always encourage all of our participants to learn. So we encourage them to sign up for CERT, to sign up for CPR, amateur radio, active shooters, stop the bleed, all of those. So that's another part of, of the Ryland workshop, the 90-minute workshop. Next slide. So how does it work during, before, and after disaster? Before and during disaster, I talked about how you're all going to get together. Next slide. And you're going to learn about the neighborhood contact list, which has the names, children's names, all of that fun stuff, the neighborhood skills list, and then the neighborhood equipment list. So that helps you prepare before the disaster. Now you're not caught off by surprise wondering when this disaster hits. For example, in the Canoga Park area, we did a Ryland, and then about 4 months after the Ryland, they had a huge windstorm, and it knocked down their transformers, and their power went out for, I believe, 12 hours. So the gentleman there activated their Ryland plan because they knew they had some people on oxygen, they knew they had some elderly there, they knew they had some single individuals who were scared to be alone. So they activated their Ryland plan, and they began to go down the list and kind of do a phone tree. You know, do you need to come over? Do we need to activate the care center? Are you okay? So it can really be, you know, they were prepared ahead of time, and they knew who needed what and what equipment was available, who had generators, what house would have lights on, et cetera, et cetera. So that worked out well for that event. And he sent me an email and let me know about that. So I thought, that's what a great example. Next slide, please. And that also works for during. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. So during, like, let's say that there's a fire event. And so you're seeing on the news that there's possible fire and you see smoke off in the distance. We always recommend that if you're concerned about it, don't wait for us to tell you to leave. It's fine to leave ahead of time, you know, that if anything does happen, then you'll free up the streets for our LA Fire to come in to use those streets, you know, as an entrance to get to it. And if you leave and nothing happens, then nothing's wasted. You've gone to spend a nice day somewhere, you know? So we always encourage that. So by knowing your contact list, you can identify, there's a little box at the bottom of each house that says vulnerable. And so in there, you would put a star or a smiley face or highlight it in yellow and say, okay, in this house, there's 3 vulnerable, a pregnant mom and 2 babies, or an elderly woman, or somebody who's, you know, has vulnerable disability or a functional need or an access need. So now you have that list, and you can go through and look for your stars or your yellow highlights or your smiley face and say, okay, before I evacuate, we're gonna go take our cars to our meeting site. Let's activate our Ryland. We'll go to the meeting site, but instead of getting together into teams, we're going to take our list and check off that everybody has a ride out. And there's an okay and help sign at the back of your shingle. So instead of saying, you know, I need help or I'm okay after an earthquake, you would put I'm okay and leaving for whatever, for motel, taking my 3 neighbors, whatever. So you put that so that firefighters come by or law enforcement come by to evacuate, they see that I'm okay and where you've gone to for sheltering. So that's how that helps in the event of an evacuation. After the disaster, let's say there is an earthquake. We all know that there's a golden hour. That's the first 60 minutes following a disaster, which has been proven to be crucial for saving lives and reducing the severity of injuries, and also decreasing property damage. In those first 60 minutes, any of you who've been through the Northridge earthquake or any large scale earthquakes know that that's when you and your neighbors came out, looked around, assessed the situation, said that tree branch looks like it might be falling. Let's go take care of that and rope that off. Or there's cars speeding through here. This is some examples I've heard in meetings. Let's put the garbage cans out so the cars have to zigzag through the garbage cans and slow down. Or, you know, so-and-so's window looks like it's just about to break. Let's put some scotch or some duct tape on it. So there's many examples of how many people already did what Ryland is offering to do. They just did it instinctively, and they did it quickly as teams. So in that first hour, you have the opportunity to do that on your street. And it gives you step-by-step. So if you're panicking, you have a step-by-step checklist of what you're supposed to do at home and then what you're supposed to be on your team. Next slide. So I wanted to go ahead and just play this little Ryland video. It's about Ryland. It does a much better job of explaining it. And then that will be the end of my presentation, and I'll take questions and questions afterwards. If you could play the video. Am I the only one who can't hear it?
I can't hear it either.
I have to share with sound. Hold on.
Sorry.
Come on, Patrick. You're the tech guy here.
Once again, the dream of a good life in Southern California has taken a major jolt.
Our #1 priority at the Emergency Management Department is the safety and well-being of everyone in Los Angeles. And we know that being prepared can make all the difference. difference if there's a major disaster. Firefighters, police officers, and paramedics may not get to every single block immediately, but we can all be there for one another before first responders even arrive in our neighborhoods. And we can get together and get prepared today with Ready Your LA Neighborhood or Ryland.
This free resource is a guide through the steps to prepare, organize, and train for whatever nature or fate might bring our way. Ready Your LA Neighborhood will help you learn about your neighborhood resources, such as skills and equipment you possess collectively, the location of utility shutoffs, and where people who may need more assistance live.
All of this information will empower you to act quickly after a disaster strikes, to reduce injuries, limit damage to your neighborhood, and even help save a life. So please, join us and help make your community and your city better prepared.
Every day, we protect and serve Angelenos. However, in a citywide disaster, such as a major earthquake, there simply are not enough of us to immediately help everyone.
In disasters like the Northridge earthquake, our firefighters respond to where there is the greatest need. This means you will likely be on your own for days or longer. Being prepared is essential to surviving a disaster.
So what do? Fortunately, we have a new program to help you prepare for disaster. Ready Your LA Neighborhood or Ryland helps you and your neighbors take simple, proven preparedness actions. It all starts with you getting to know your neighbors.
Now, you might be thinking, I don't even know my neighbors. Well, by using Ready Your LA Neighborhood, you will get to know your neighbors and you will create a disaster response plan together.
How are you? Thank you for coming.
During your 90-minute meeting with your neighbors, you will determine a gathering place where you will meet after a disaster. You will discover the skills that you and your neighbors collectively possess and learn how you can help each other after a disaster. You might even find out that there's a nurse who lives right across the street. And you may also find out who might have equipment such as a ladder or crutches.
An important part of your meeting is filling out the contact list. This lists everyone, including your neighbors who may need assistance, such as those with a disability, those who are elderly, children who may be home alone, or homes with pets. If you know who lives where, then you'll know who to check on when something happens. Keep in mind, you don't share this with anyone but your immediate neighbors. Finally, you and your neighbors will learn a simple response plan that will help you know exactly what to do in the first hour following a disaster, ground you, and help reduce that sense of panic that many experience in a disaster situation.
So how big should my neighborhood be? A neighborhood should be the right size to help each other in that critical first hour when we can save lives and reduce injuries and property damage.
We know from experience that means about 15 to 30 single-family homes and the entire building if you live in an apartment or condo. Or maybe just your floor if it's a large building. If you live in a more sparsely populated area of our city, 5 to 7 homes make sense.
After you've determined your neighborhood boundaries, you can visit readyla.org to obtain your materials for your workshop. At that time, you can also request EMD assistance if you would like. We will provide you with everything you need for a successful meeting.
What's appealed to us, kind of taking the next evolution for the Neighborhood Watch to help us all, as a community, since we're already together, to now consolidate our resources. But more importantly, it just really drove the message of taking care of your loved ones. And there's nothing more important to me than taking care of them.
I think what we have is not just, it's neighbor helping neighbor, but it's a community thing. And I think that everybody wants to be part of a community.
The first step was getting to know our neighbors, which was big. So now we know who's home, we know who works.
And it's really interesting when you get a group because somebody is strong in almost every area that needs to be covered. So and if there's not, then people will work together to make that happen anyway. And that's the whole community, neighborhood, familial thing. There's always someone who will help someone. That's the most amazing thing that I've discovered about this whole thing. There's always someone who's willing to help someone else. It's pretty awesome.
It's really that easy. The determine the boundaries of your own neighborhood, and then contact us to get your meeting materials.
So I did want to mention that due to COVID, we were impacted pretty harshly. And then we also had a lot of retirements. I saw the comment earlier, and a lot of people, I'm down to 2 staff members right now. But with that being said, we revamped, we took that opportunity to revamp our website. So if you go to readyla.org, we've completely updated our website. We've completely made it so that you will get all the information you need. If you choose to do a Ryland without us, if you want to do it yourself, we've provided everything online. So you can just go through the little, if you go to readyla.org, you can click Ryland and it'll say, do you want a workshop or just information? Do you live in a single family home or multifamily homes? And then it'll walk you through and it'll give you everything you need to have your Ryland without us. Or it'll also give you the opportunity to reach out to us and say, you know, I have the materials, but I still like your guys' help. So we offer both things there on the website. So we've improved that because we are working virtual and we don't have staff in the office at this time. We made sure to update our website. So please go, and you'll have my phone number. If you have a pen ready for all of you, my cell phone number is 213-505-5467. And I will go ahead and put it in the chat. So if you have any issues or problem moving forward, if you're not getting a response, that tells me that maybe there's a glitch in our computer system and I will need to look into it. But please check out our website, readyla.org. And if you're interested, start that initial process of requesting your Ryland materials or your Ryland contact, and we will be more than happy to assist you. Thank you for your time, and I hope that you found my presentation beneficial. Patrick?
Thank you, Crisanta. Let's go ahead. We'll hold any questions to the end. Do you have time to stay on to the end, Crisanta?
Yeah, that's fine. I'll be more than happy to answer any questions at the end.
I'll go ahead and bring up my presentation.
Hey. Everything okay?
Can I ask everybody to mute themselves, please?
Right.
Not already.
We'll see you later.
Okay. Just take care of that for you. Thank you, everybody. As I introduced myself earlier, my name is Patrick Forbes. I am the LAFD CERT Central Bureau Coordinator. And the Community Emergency Response Team program, as Crisanta mentioned earlier, was actually created here in the city of Los Angeles. This program was created in 1986 by the Los Angeles Fire Department. What they realized is that the numbers didn't work in the city's favor. And they really came up with the idea to teach us how to be prepared for ourselves, how to take care of our families, and then how to help our neighbors out. And what they saw was that in disaster after disaster worldwide, the community does do that. We actually do go help our neighbors out when a calamity, disaster, or whatever happens. They went down to Mexico City right after the Mexico City earthquake, and they saw that the community was there. The first responders, they were just spread just as thin as LAFD would be during a major disaster, a major earthquake, but it was neighbor helping neighbor. Unfortunately, what they also saw was that the lack of training, these people that were helping out didn't know how to do so safely. And when the aftershock occurred the next morning, unfortunately, a lot of the volunteer community members who were acting as first responders perished in the aftershock because they were in buildings that they should not have been in, that were not safe to go into. And so really the core of the Community Emergency Response Team is to do everything safely. They give us the training to look at a building, tell if it's safe to enter, the basic knowledge on how to bandage and clean an injury. The slogan is the greatest good for the greatest number of people in the shortest amount of time. We can't help everybody. We can't save everybody, but the people that we can help, those people who are viable, those people who we can do so safely and not put ourselves in danger, we will make a major difference for them. And it is important to note that CERT really does become active when the professional first responders are not available. On a day-to-day, there's a fire, LAFD is going to move on that fire with whatever resources, more than enough resources to take care of it. And then they'll release the resources they don't need. They don't need volunteers coming up and saying, how can I help, or getting in the way. Let the professionals do their job. But if you have taken this training, you are here, you want to be of value, understand that this is for when those first responders can't be there. If you're there first, you see a fire and you call 911, and then you take action, you go and try and get the neighbors who are next door out to evacuate, to make sure they're safe. You're doing the job of the first responder until the fire department arrives, and then you can step back and let them take over. I forget when it happened, but FEMA took CERT nationwide. They took it from the LAFD program, and they made it the standard in this country, and it's actually gone worldwide. So it's in, I forget the number of countries, but Chile, China, a lot of countries have this community emergency response team. The way LAFD teaches it is you actually have a sworn, experienced firefighter who teaches the class. They're 100% free. LAFD teaches it as 7 weekly, 2.5-hour sessions. It comes out to about 17.5 hours worth of training. And the modules that they teach are the FEMA standard modules of disaster preparedness, CERT organization, disaster medical operations covering basic first aid, disaster medical operations 2 covering triage, disaster psychology, fire safety and utility controls, and then light search and rescue and terrorism and CERT. The terrorism and CERT has been obviously something more frequent, unfortunately, with active shooters, people flying planes into buildings, the understanding of where we fall into that and what you can do as a CERT trained member who happens to be there, quite frankly, at the wrong place at the wrong time, but you might actually be able to do some good. It is certainly not something that you're going to drive across the city to and see if you can help. Just let the professionals take care of that. But if you're there, it's right in front of you and you're the only one who can do something about it, it's up to you if you want to or not. LAFD also teaches the CERT refreshers. These are reviews of basic skills taught in the class. They focus on the disaster medical, first aid and triage, utility shutoff, light search and rescue. And what LAFD doesn't do that the FEMA standard is have a hands-on disaster simulation at the end of the class, which takes it to 24 hours. We do this during the CERT refreshers. And some of these CERT refreshers have been massive in scale. We had a helicopter land. We were at the training center in the Valley, and we did a full-blown exercise with a flipped over or a train, subway train derailment. And at the end, a helicopter landed and extricated some of the victims. So it was amazing hands-on simulation. The other thing that LAFD does is, if you think about it, the city of Los Angeles is kind of unique in that we have 4 million firefighters. I'm sorry, 4 million firefighters. That'd be awesome. 4 million people who live in the city, and then the CERT instructors are teaching maybe 2,000 CERT volunteers a year. There's no way for the firefighters of the CERT unit to be able to track that many people who have taken the class. And the thought is that you take this class and now the the fire department knows about you and they're going to reach out to you when they need your help. That's simply not reality. That's simply not even practical. But what they have done is they've appointed CERT volunteer coordinators, people such as myself and Chin, who are there to organize and to be the liaisons between the fire department and the volunteers who have taken the class and the trainings. And we are volunteers who have taken the training ourselves, and we've gone through and taken additional training, and we've kind of stepped up. And because we stepped up and showed that we had the capability to, they chose us to become coordinators. And what it's really for us to define what that organization structure looks like at the volunteer level. It's not the fire department making this up as they go. We have a couple captains who are in charge of the CERT program. They're here for a couple of years. So really, if it was up to them, this would change dramatically from captain to captain. And that is not a good program, a good way to do things, in my opinion. We've seen presentations from Portland, and no offense to Crisanta, but they referred to their emergency management department's flavor of the month. What we're teaching is that the program needs to be owned by the volunteers. The program needs to be owned by the residents. You may live in your home for 30, 40, 50 years. You live in that neighborhood. This is your neighborhood. A fire captain is in a position for a couple of years. They are there to do good. They're there to help out, but you're the one who owns this, and you have to. And once we take ownership of this, we're the ones who can make this happen and make this continue and make this grow. So we're the liaison bridge as coordinators between the fire department and the block level, the neighborhood level, the community level. We'll be organizing neighborhood meetings. We'll be organizing additional exercises and skills review. And then we're going to build these neighborhood teams that we're going to talk about. We have two kinds of CERT members. We have the neighborhood member who has taken the basic training class, and you don't have to take it through LA City. You can have taken it through LA County Fire. You can take it through Cal Fire. You can take it from another state. However you take it, as long as it's an approved FEMA class, you're a CERT member, pure and simple. The training is designed to be standardized. So what you take in LA City, what you take in LA County, what you take in Montana, it should all be the same basic core material. That's not to say that you've taken it once and now you're an expert. You should definitely take it somewhat frequently, because things change, new knowledge is put out, program updates itself, but also you forget about things. And so every couple of years is probably a good way to do it. If you take the program, if you took the program in 2018, and you didn't get a chance to take it in 2020 because, well, there was no program due to some sort of pandemic or something like that, now is probably a good time to retake the class once we get them up and running again. The same thing goes for first aid certification. The certification is good for 2 years, and there's a very good reason for that. You forget things that you don't do on a day-to-day basis, and none of us are doing this on a day-to-day basis, especially in the city of Los Angeles. But if you want to be that neighborhood team member, the desire really is just to help your neighbors out. You don't need to be background checked. You don't need to be physically fit. You don't need to be particularly agile and mobile. Anybody can be a member, even if you're wheelchair bound, or even if you have significant difficulties and challenges. You're a valued member of the team, and there's always a role for you. We want you to work with your CERT coordinators. Reach out to them, because they don't know how to find you. We make ourselves available on the CERT website. We make ourselves available in email, on Nextdoor. We're trying to find you, but you need to reach out to us and let us know that you exist, so that you can work with us and we can work with you to build that response team and plan. And then we want to set up neighborhood disaster response teams in each of our neighborhoods. One of the ways we can do that is with the neighborhood team program, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. The second type of CERT volunteer are what are called call-out team members. And these are volunteers who have stepped up and said they want to volunteer directly for the fire department. They are background checked by LA City personnel. They receive additional training and they become sworn disaster service workers. What kinds of things that we can do for the fire department is hydration support. If there's a big fire, the firefighters are going to be there for hours. A firefighter can only be inside a burning building for 15 minutes before they have to come out and rehab for about half an hour. And normally a paramedic is there making sure that these firefighters get the hydration that they need, the water, the fluids, whatever they need to be able to get back into shape so they can go back into the fire. As CERT volunteers, we can help out with that, and we do frequently help out so those paramedics are put back into service instead of being there handing out water. We can do wires down calls. I've personally relieved a fire company, a truck and engine with a captain too, who'd been on not even a wires down, it was wires slanted. It was a cracked telephone pole with wires leaning on a building. And they had been there for, I want to say 7 hours when we relieved them, and they got to go home, shower, and get back into service. And we were there until pretty much the industrial park had emptied out and it was way past sundown. Fire station security. Occasionally we'll get the fire doors will break, and if the fire garage door is open, the fire company can't leave. They have to stay there and make sure that the station is secure. So we've had CERT volunteers, call-out team members who have been able to provide that station security, stay there at the station while the fire engine and fire company run calls. Community fire patrol. I go out every 4th of July, and we do at red flag days and whenever the city asks us to patrol key areas that are known to burn. We're there, we're able to drive around, be an extra set of eyes. Sometimes we'll be the first ones who spot a fire and call it in, and the fire department's able to jump on it that much faster when minutes and seconds count with these kinds of grass fires and wildfires. And then we have the alert wildfire monitoring team. They're monitoring cameras that are pointed at certain areas around the city, around the county, and they're able to call in signs of smoke before anyone else sees it and help the fire department jump on that and get that taken care of. I want to jump into the crux of this, which is the neighborhood team program, which is why you're all here. I realized I'd left my camera off. Be the talking head down here. So the neighborhood team program really is not intended to be a reinvention of any wheels. What we're doing is we are combining the key programs that we've mentioned today, Rylan from the emergency management department, CERT from the fire department. Later on in the sessions, you'll hear from LAPD talking about neighborhood watch and neighborhood security and situational awareness. That's what NTP really does, is combine these programs into one system to make it easy for you to access. And we take it down to the community level, to the neighborhood level, to the block level, and provide additional support for these agencies who teach these programs and help you connect with them. As Crisanta mentioned, that she's down to 4 people. And as was commented, it was difficult, especially in the last year and a half, for people to get a hold of EMD because EMD was also managing a pandemic. And then they were managing a crisis where fireworks exploded and took out and damaged several homes. So they're busy. They don't have the time and bandwidth to be able to deal with the volunteers like we do as volunteers with you. And really the focus is neighbors helping neighbors here. We are your neighbors, we're helping you, and we're providing you the correct path to get you on the way. One of the key things for neighborhood first responders to be are organized, trained, standardized, defined, and then able to act when the professionals aren't available. And when the professionals are available, we can then become force multipliers for them. Say there's an evacuation. I don't want to say that this is what we will do, but it is certainly something that could happen. Is if there's an evacuation for a neighborhood and you have a single squad car, LAPD squad car going through that neighborhood, you and your neighbors can go check on your most vulnerable neighbors and help them to understand the need to get out, the need to evacuate. And LAPD is not going to go into every home and make sure that everyone is left. A lot of times you'll have elderly or people who are mobility challenged who go, well, it's just too hard for me to leave. I guess I'll burn to death. And that is unfortunately what we've heard from these people when their neighbor comes and knocks on the door and says, no, that's not acceptable. Get your stuff. I'm going to help you get in your car and you're going to come with me to the evacuation center. And sometimes that's all these neighbors need. But LAPD is not going to be able to do that. They can't do that, but you and your neighbors can. And so that's really how we become force multipliers for our neighbors when the professionals are available. And certainly when they're not, that's when we are the most important. NTP has several goals. First and foremost is to develop and train self-sufficient neighborhood disaster response teams. It was the original goal of Chief Borden, who created the CERT program, to really take it down to the neighborhood block level. And the EMD presentation, there's confusing language in it. We in Los Angeles don't really understand terms like city, community, neighborhood, or neighborhood block. It's really frustrating as you're asking people what community do you live in or what neighborhood do you live in? And the answer is, I live in the city of Northridge in the community of Los Angeles, and I don't know what a neighborhood is. What Ryland focuses on is the neighborhood block, that those 20 households. It's really your immediate neighbors. But a neighborhood is about maybe 300 to 2,000 residents. A community is a little bit larger than that, upwards of 60,000. And then of course the city has a mayor and elected officials, city council. You do have neighborhood councils as well, but all in all, everything is confusing and no one has exact terminology. But as I use terms, we're trying to standardize on them and really define what they mean so that we're all talking the same thing. It's so frustrating when I ask, well, where do you live? What community do you live in? Somebody says, Los Angeles. That doesn't tell me anything. I don't know where in Los Angeles you live. You could live in the Valley, you could live in the Harbor, you could live right next to me and I wouldn't know that. But if you tell me you live in Northridge, or you tell me you live in Eagle Rock or Highland Park, or you live in the neighborhood of Rose Hills, that tells me something. So we're definitely trying to get that terminology worked out. And then when we talk about the neighborhood blocks, it really is down to that level. We're talking about 20 households or an apartment building or a condo complex or something like that. So we're really trying to establish that, an idea of where people are, establish and then install neighborhood staging area kits throughout the city. And this is very ambitious and it's a massively long-term goal. But what it is if you know the earthquake has happened, the power's out, your cell phones don't work, and you don't have a two-way radio, you know that your neighborhood staging area is at the Catholic church nearby. You can go there, you can walk there and show up, and there will be other people, other neighborhood disaster response team members who are showing up there. And now as the number of people show up, you have a team. You can start doing stuff. Until that point, you're all alone. You're not a team. It's really unsafe for you to do too much than take care of yourself and your family. But if we have a rally point, a staging area to go to, then we can start building these teams. And these kits are designed to really be everything you need in the first 3 hours of a response. Maps of the area, whiteboard, clipboards, forms, two-way radios, medical resupply, everything you need for those 3 hours. And that's part of what we're trying to do with the neighborhood team program, is really establish these staging area kits throughout the city. And there will have to be a lot of them, but it is an ambitious goal for sure. Then we want to drill each neighborhood team quarterly. We found that over COVID, 18 months of not drilling, not meeting in person, our people's skills are rusty. And it is very unfortunate because it's not for lack of wanting to do something, for sure. When we started having drills again, we were able to get a good number of people coming out, and we want to keep this up. We want to keep up the momentum. We did a drill in August in the West Adams area. We did a drill in the Grayburn area of Lafayette Park this last weekend. And then we're going to start planning a drill in Venice in October, and then Point Fermin in November. Whether or not these drills actually do materialize, we don't know, but it is our goal. And then annually, we want to have these staging areas stand up right around the Great Shakeout and be able to communicate, have everybody go to their staging area, operate, bring up the staging area, do their damage assessments, communicate over their radios, and then communicate upwards to what would effectively be a battalion command level or citywide level, so that we can communicate and see how things are going. Most importantly, as I mentioned before, the defined, the standardized, we want to define and establish a baseline standard of procedures, training, and equipment. So each staging area will have the same basic equipment. Every member will have the same basic level of training. We'll have the same standard operating procedures citywide, so that if you train in the valley, you train in the harbor, it's all the same training. But we can then tell the fire department, this is what the neighborhood disaster response teams will be doing. These are our documentation. These are our step-by-step guides. This is everything you need to know on how to rely on us and how to find us, so that we can be of use to you as firefighters and as the fire department and other city agencies like EMD and LAPD. We're trying to really focus on a simultaneous bottom-up and top-down approach. These teams have to be grassroots in origin. There's simply no way that we, Chin, myself, Carl, Christy, as bureau coordinators can go and create these teams. There's simply no way the fire department can create these teams, and there's simply no way that EMD with only 4 people can create these teams. It really has to be people like you who are attending this training. Say, hey, I want to be a team leader. I want to get my neighborhood block. I want to get my neighborhood organized. I want to set up a neighborhood disaster response team. What's the next step? And that's when you come to us, and that's when we work with you and bring in our battalion coordinators to really to focus on getting your team up and running, get you through these 6 sessions and get that drill in place, and then help you and stay with you. It's not a one and done. We're not here to get you set up and then walk away. We're going to be here. We're going to continue working with you, make sure that you're getting your drills done, help you out with them. We're never going to abandon you. And I hope that helps to make these programs function and progress and grow through the future. What we're doing is we're combining CERT trained volunteers with non-CERT trained volunteers. We're combining them with the Ryland organized blocks, those neighborhood blocks, those 20 households. And then we're combining them with the existing and new neighborhood watch groups. And that one's interesting because some areas of the city love neighborhood watch, others don't. So it's not something that we're saying you have to use. It is simply part of the tool set. And if you're interested or these groups exist, we're going to embrace them and incorporate them. If they don't and no one's interested, we're not going to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. We're going to simultaneously focus on the tactics, and that's from the ground up. We need these neighborhood team leaders, and we're going to build the teams around them. They're going to be the focal point. They're going to be our contact, and we're going to be working with them, and they're going to be working with their team leaders, and we're going to help them, provide them training and assistance as they grow their team. And then from the top down, we're focusing on strategy, really guiding with a citywide view of what this program should look like, and where we need things to go, and how it interoperates with the other agencies, the 10,000-foot view. And I touched on this earlier, everyone is useful. We have a lot of people who say, oh, I can't walk, I'm on a walker, or I need a cane, or I can't carry heavy stuff, I can't lift a backpack. That doesn't matter. What matters is really that you're interested in doing something. You want to get prepared for yourself. That's step one, but you want to help your neighbors out. And that's the incredible and important part. And we're never going to turn you away. We're not going to say, oh, well, but what can you really do? No, we're going to find a role for you. We're going to find out what you're good at, and we're going to help you assume that role and be better at it. There's a lot of different positions, radio operators, scribes, where you don't have to go walking miles in your neighborhood with a heavy backpack. You can be at the staging area or in your home, communicating over the radio. That's certainly an option. We are looking for able-bodied responders, though, because those are going to be parts of the damage assessment teams and the incident response teams. Those are the people who will be going out in the neighborhood, walking the blocks, checking on their neighbors, and then doing something about it when they encounter a problem, an injury, or a small fire, or whatever that they can handle, or maybe, just caution tape off an area, report it in, and make sure that other people are safe and don't get hurt by this incident. And then, of course, the team leaders, the command level positions, you need to be able to do both the strategy and the tactics. And we're going to help you. We're going to train you. We're going to help you become better at it and understand the big picture, as well as the boots on the ground necessity and what it means to be in a leadership position. Additionally, untrained convergent volunteers, and this is especially where Ryland comes in. If you've taken the Ryland training, you've done your golden hour, your Ryland block, and now everything is fine, but the next block over has been utterly destroyed by this earthquake, you can become a convergent volunteer. You can help your neighbors out over in the next block because your immediate block doesn't need you. But you don't necessarily have the training to do so safely. And so you will pair you with the CERT volunteers who do have the training, and you can help out and be an extra set of hands. And that CERT member can make sure that you do things safely, either through advice and facilitating, or just-in-time training in the field. But we're going to be working with you to make sure you do things safely, and everyone has to get home safe. That is the #1 rule. To that end, we're bringing an infrastructure and resources to the city, to you and your neighbors. I was typing this up and realized that if I put anything else in here, it would become too difficult to actually read. But we created a document package with a citywide standard operating procedure and step-by-step guides. We have a master calendar for all the things that are coming up. So you can go to one place and see everything and things that we are aware of and put on there just to let you know about. We have a single place for you to sign up to be a team leader or be a member of a team, and for our different systems that we've built out. We're offering our coordinators a standard meeting setup and sign up and platform with Eventbrite and Zoom. And we're bringing in Discord as a group chat for team organization. We mentioned the staging area kits. That's something that we're actively working on and developing and working with the neighborhood councils on. Two-way radios. We want to bring something a little bit better than FRS radio, and we have commercial radios that are available throughout the city. And then a private two-way radio communication system on your cell phone. Some people are scared of radios. This makes it very easy, something, an app on your phone that you're already used to. Additionally, we have the capability of setting up repeater systems to further extend radio communication. And then we have neighborhood and community CERT and neighborhood team program t-shirts so that we can look like a team. The document package is accessible at documents.ntp-la.org. I highly encourage everybody to read through them and provide feedback to me. This is something that will always grow. It will always become just as we need to, and additional documents will get added. It is not a static one-time thing. The document package as it stands is number one, the step-by-step guide to setting up your neighborhood emergency team. Document number 2 are the 9 easy steps based on Ryland and Map Your Neighborhood that you can perform right after a moderate earthquake. Step 3 is the neighborhood team program sign-up flyer that you can hand out to your neighbors. Document 4 is our standard operating procedures for disaster response. Step 5 extrapolates on that, and it is the step-by-step guide to follow for that standard operating procedures, setting up a staging area and initial response to a disaster. Step 6 is a flowchart of the team organization, how that looks and what we endeavor it to be at the different levels. And then document 7 is the step-by-step guide to two-way radio communication. I want to touch on that standard operating procedure. You've heard several times the mention of standard and defined in this. And it's really imperative as we talk to the fire department, we talk to EMD, to be taken seriously. We need to have documentation that says this is what we are going to be doing. This is how our people are trained. This is how to expect us to respond in an emergency, in a disaster. And once that is established and accepted by the city, they can take us seriously. If we don't, and it's just ad hoc, it's a few volunteers here and there, who knows what they're going to be doing, the city will never take us seriously. And this is where we really are working to define this relationship with the city so that they know, oh yeah, I read that document, I read that SOP, I read that step-by-step guide, and the fire department has been at our drills and they know where we're going to be. They know how to use us, and that's critical. We also want it to be citywide. We want you to, if you live in the harbor and you go to the valley for training, we want you to see the same thing that you trained on in the harbor. You go to West LA and you see the same thing, the same step-by-step, the same procedures, setting up the staging area. It's all done the same way. It builds muscle memory, and it doesn't get confusing. Well, the valley does it this way, and in Brentwood, they do it this way. And in the harbor, well, there's no one in the harbor. We need that standardization, and that's what we're trying to do. Calendar.ntp-la.org is one place that will have all of our upcoming events. As soon as an event goes live on Eventbrite, it gets published to this calendar so that you can see at a glance what's going on. So you don't have to rely on my email list to get that information out to you, because sometimes it takes me a few days or 10 before I get the monthly email list out. And by then there's already been several different trainings that have happened and you weren't aware of. So always keep an eye on this. You can add this to your calendar so you can see it. It gets updated all the time. And it's calendar.ntp-la.org. The single place to sign up, one of the biggest flaws, and it's not there are actual reasons for this, but when you take the CERT training, your information becomes city property, and the city attorney has said that they can't share their information with volunteers. And as mentioned earlier, the CERT unit doesn't have enough staff to reach out to all the different volunteers, the 2,000 people they just trained, and coordinate them and get them set up and push them in the right direction. That's why they rely on us. So what we do is we've created our own list, and we ask you to sign up at join.ntp-la.org. and we keep your privacy sacrosanct. We are not selling your information. We're not giving it out. I have serious concerns if Captain Gross were to ask me for the list that we have, if I would even give it to him, just because we care about your privacy that much. So you can trust us with your information. You can provide as much or as little. If you give us your address and your cell phone number, it's great. We're not going to mail you anything. We're not going to call you. But what we can do is we can map where our volunteers are. And we can see on a map and say, oh, we've got a cluster here. That's great. We can focus on that and build a team there. Or, ooh, there's a massive gap where there's nobody in this area. Maybe we need to focus on that area and see if we can get some volunteers trained in that area or do recruiting. So that's why we ask for that information. But if you don't provide it, that's perfectly fine. We just care that you get on the list so that you can find out what's going on and that we can let you know about the training. And then when we do get the CERT trainings up and running with LAFD again, if you need that training, you'll be the first ones to know about it through our email list. Additionally, and this will come up in the next few slides, this is also where you sign up for an LAFD CERT Zello radio account, or you sign up to get on our Discord, our team chat. One place to sign up for everything. We're using Eventbrite and Zoom. Obviously, you're on the Zoom right now, and you signed up through Eventbrite. So this is something that we can template and standardize, so all of our coordinators are sending out a uniform message. And it is industry standard. The team chat. This is something that we really want our neighborhoods to embrace if they want to. We think it could be a massive asset. So the people in Point Fermin, we're going to set up a Discord channel for you. And if you sign up on join.ntp-la.org and say that you want to be part of the Discord, it'll give you the link to join it. Then you can actually coordinate through this system and be able to chat with your neighbors. We use call signs instead of first and last names or even first names, just so that we have some anonymity. So we keep our privacy in secure. Not everybody wants all of their neighbors to know who they are, and we honor that. So the call sign system is designed to allow people to get a general idea of where you are, but not exactly know who you are unless you want to share that information with them. It is persistent chat, so if you sign up later, you can go back in the history and see what people have been talking about and catch up on things. We've broken it up by bureau, battalion, community, and neighborhood level. And again, we're defining those as a neighborhood level is about 300 to 3,000 or 2,000 homes or residents. A community is that 2,000 to 60,000, kind of the size of a neighborhood council. The battalion is defined by LAFD. When you sign up, you'll be given a link. You can put your address in it, and it will tell you what battalion you are in, LAFD battalion. And then your bureau, there are 4 bureaus in the city of Los Angeles: Valley Bureau, West Bureau, South Bureau, and Central Bureau. And you can chat at each of these levels. The neighborhood level is private. Only you and your neighborhood members can see this chat, so that you can have a little more detailed conversations that you don't need to let the entire city know about. However, some of the more active communities may have very insightful communications at the community level, and we want to make it open to everybody so that they get the opportunity to kind of get ideas from each other and share ideas. And Discord is available on Android, iPhone, iPad, Windows computers. There's an app, web browsers. You can pretty much get on it from any single device that you have out there, except maybe a feature phone. If you have a flip phone, you might not be able to get on Discord. I could be wrong on that, though. It's pretty universal. The staging area kits. These are really the crux of everything we're trying to work for. Getting those neighborhood disaster response teams a location that they can go to and the resources they need to get operational in the first 3 hours. We're trying to keep them relatively inexpensive, relatively small, so they're affordable, so we can work with neighborhood councils to pay for them. They're going to focus on really a 5-block radius, And this, I used to say 10 block, about a mile, until we actually did the maps and realized that a 10 block or a mile radius was more like 7 to 10 miles as you walk the route, walk the streets in that area. So we had to cut it down to 5 blocks, and that's roughly about 3 miles, which is a little more walkable. Certainly not everyone can do it, and we don't want you to hurt yourself. We never want you to bring a victim. We never want to bring a victim to an incident. So we ask that you to know your own fitness level. If you can't walk a 3 to 5 mile route, don't. Say, I need to stay here at the staging area. Find me something else to do. And I'm sure that the staging area will say, absolutely. Are you good at radio? Are you good at scribing? Here's a clipboard, here's a radio. I need you over here. I need you to do this. You're going to be an asset no matter where you are by just showing up. These staging area kits need to have 24/7 access, so they have to be outdoors. We don't want to rely on someone getting there and letting us in. Inevitably, the person with the key won't be in town when the earthquake happens. If that happens and you're waiting around, you might be waiting a long time and not able to do anything. So that access is critical. This is why we invest a little bit more into the box to make sure that it is more difficult to break into, but we also don't want too much in there that will make it an attractive target and expensive to replace. We're partnering with local houses of worship or businesses for these locations. The backyard or the back parking area of a restaurant or business, the parking lot of a house of worship. These are great locations. And then we're standardizing on the baseline contents so that every kit will have the same stuff. Again, if you train with one neighborhood or you train on your own, you can expect a certain amount and a certain exact list of gear in each of these. So it's not you open it up and go, well, I have no idea what this stuff is because I've never seen it before. I've never trained on it. No, I know exactly what this is because I've trained at 3 different neighborhood staging areas, and all of them had the same stuff. That's standardization. That makes us effective and efficient. These will have whiteboards, maps, clipboards, two-way radios, medical resupply. Medical resupply, everyone should be bringing their own bags, their own equipment, their own gear. However, as we bandage and address injuries, we're going to burn through our own supplies. And so being able to restock from the staging area keeps us able to go back out and keeps us in the response. I do want to point out we are standardizing on our terminology. This is a staging area kit. This is not a disaster cache or a disaster bin or a CERT bin. This is a staging area kit. It is designed for the first 3 hours of operation. Disaster caches, disaster bins have different purposes. There are some out there. Some neighborhood councils have funded them. Some private entities have funded them. Red Cross certainly has their own bins, but they each serve their own purpose. Specifically, we are focusing on the staging area kits. We have a business band license, commercial radio. This is going to be a little bit better radio than what a standard family radio service radio that you can buy at Best Buy or Amazon is going to get you. This is a citywide license. So the channels that you use in the harbor, channels that you use in West LA, channels you use in Northeast LA, and the channels that you use in the Valley, they're all the same. If you go train with one of the other areas, you can use your radios and be able to communicate with the teams up there. And what we want to do is encourage our teams to be able to borrow from their staging area kit. Take the radios in there and use them. Go to the Valley, train with the Valley if you're from the harbor or vice versa. And use the radios, make sure they work, make sure that you know how to use them and how you can communicate effectively over the radio. We have 10 simplex or direct channels. We have 3 mobile repeater channels. And these radios that we've standardized on, they're relatively inexpensive. They're low power. They're really designed for neighborhood level. They're a little bit better than FRS, but they're not going to give you citywide communication, and they're not designed to. They're really able to talk several blocks to a mile, maybe a mile and a half. But what we're doing is, because we're controlling everything on this level. They already have private tones built in. So you're not going to hear all the noise you do when you turn on your FRS radio and turn it to channel 5 with a PL tone of 0. It really cuts down the interference and cuts down that noise and cuts down on people having to turn the volume down on their radios and make them useless. We're also looking into setting up local neighborhood repeaters. Some neighborhoods are a lot more complicated than others. Others might be flat, perfect. You can use a two-way radio for a couple of miles, great. Others are hilly or have valleys or have all sorts of different interesting things and the diversity of LA City. So some of these, to be effective, we will need neighborhood repeaters, and we want to work with the neighborhoods to get these set up. These will be community hosted. It's not ideal, but a repeater site costs thousands of dollars a month to rent, and nobody has that kind of money to spend on this. So if we have a neighbor who says, I can host it, I live on the top of the hill, we can put up an antenna on my roof, awesome. We'll have an MOU with you, and we'll set the battery and solar panel so that that radio repeater can operate whenever we need to, even if the power's out. We use what's called the Zello app, and this is a closed two-way radio network. It was really designed for taxi cab companies and delivery companies to replace expensive commercial radio systems. These systems could be tens of thousands of dollars. LAFD, LAPD, they have these very expensive commercial radio systems. It doesn't make sense for us to have that. But in order to expand upon what we do have with our two-way radio comms and to practice, and especially since COVID, where we can't really meet in person, we're able to train every month. Every fourth Wednesday in the month, we have a radio training. Every Monday, we have a radio net, and we're able to talk citywide. We have people who go out of town and are able to join the net. We have people from other parts of the country. Those are few and far between that can join us on this radio system. But what's also great about this is we can tie it to our local repeaters and our local comms, our local neighborhood systems with a gateway, so that if you are out of town, say you're on vacation and you have your local repeater system set up, and somebody says, oh, there's a power outage, or oh, there's a fire in our area, you'll be alerted to that on your Zello app, even if you're not in the area. While they're talking on their two-way radios, you'll pick it up and hear it and can communicate back and make sure everyone in your neighborhood's fine, or that your house hasn't burned down while you're on vacation. One of the things that I mentioned earlier is that we want to identify as a team. If you look at LAPD, look at LAFD, you know who they are. They're the guys with the hard yellow hats and the yellow coats with an axe, and they're running into the burning building. Nobody knows who we are as CERT. In fact, I don't even like saying CERT to non-us, because if you tell somebody, hey, we're part of the CERT team, they're going to go, okay. And they're going to not know what that means, but they also don't want to sound ignorant. So if you ask somebody if they've heard of CERT, they go, uh-huh, and they walk away from you because they don't want to seem dumb. But if you say, are you aware of the Community Emergency Response Team? Or are you aware of the Neighborhood Team Program? Are you aware of the Neighborhood Disaster Response Team that we're forming here? These terms are self-explanatory. Identifying ourselves as part of that. If you see a bunch of people in these green shirts and it says Community Emergency Response Team on the back, and it says El Sereno Neighborhood or Community, and you see people in these gray shirts and it says Point Fermin Neighborhood Team Program, it identifies who we are to each other and also to our neighbors, and helps build that relationship. Because what's going to happen after that earthquake, when your cell phone doesn't work, when the power's out, when the fire department's not coming anytime soon, when 911 rings busy, is we want our neighbors to see these people in the green shirts and the green vests and the gray shirts and say, I know these people, they're here to help. They're my neighbors. They've gotten this training, they're organized, they know what they're doing. So at least I'm not panicking because no one's coming because they're here, my neighbors. We do these shirts through Teespring, and we keep them as close to cost as possible. We round up slightly, so if it's like $13.35, we'll charge $14. We're not trying to make money off of it, but it also just makes the math easier. And as if you have a community or neighborhood you want to get a custom shirt for, let us know and we'll create the shirt for you and make it available to you. And you and your neighbors can order it whenever you want to. And just let me know if you need a shirt made up. This is session 1 of the neighborhood team orientation. These sessions are designed to really be what we call CERT light. We take the training that we've received as CERT volunteers. We've taken the training that we've learned through the incident command system classes and through our drills, and we make it approachable. We make it easy for the non-experienced people, for the non-trained people. If you need to get started and you don't know where, we encourage you to come to this session, because it's not, you have to attend all 6 or you don't graduate. We don't do that. Come attend which ones you can, and then we're going to make these available throughout the city. We're going to have them overlap. So if you miss session 2, you can pick it up somewhere else. You miss session 3, you can pick it up somewhere else. Or we'll have people from other communities dropping in because they missed their session 2 or their session 3, and they want to pick it up. And it's going to be the same training each time, maybe a little bit focused on that particular community, but generally speaking, it's going to be the same training. And we want you to approach it. And if you need to attend a few of them just to get it, we give you a lot of information that's completely understandable. The 6 sessions, this one is the first one, Neighborhood Preparedness and Organization, covering Ryland's CERT and the big picture of the neighborhood team program. Next session will be on disaster medical. We have an EMT or first aid instructor teaching this class. Then we have light search and rescue, teaching you how to find your neighbors who need help without any heavy equipment. That's what the light part is, not needing heavy equipment. Two-way radio communication, how to use a two-way radio. It's fundamental. Without them, our scope, we're limited to where a runner can get to. That might be a few blocks. But with two-way radios, we can go out farther and communicate longer range. But it is a skill that needs to be practiced, a skill that needs to be learned and trained. If you pick up a radio for the first time, it's going to be problematic. And hopefully that's not right after that earthquake and you need to know how to use it. Family preparedness, how to get yourself and your neighbors, yourself and your family prepared for that earthquake, so that when it happens, you have what you need to be able to survive on your own, or at least with limited need to go to the store. And maybe you're trading stuff and bartering with your neighbors who are also prepared as well. The better prepared a neighborhood is, the more likely they're going to survive intact from a massive disaster such as an earthquake. And then finally, the neighborhood security and situational awareness. This is where we try and bring LAPD in. They're busy, but we go over, how to have a plan with your neighbors, and understand that if you're prepared and it is now a couple of weeks after the earthquake and the power's still out, the people who were not prepared are going to become desperate, and they're going to be looking for opportunities, and you don't want to give them an opportunity. And how you communicate with your neighbors and how you plan ahead of time will discourage people who are looking for easy scores to come in. And if they know that this neighborhood is active, this neighborhood is organized, this neighborhood has presence, they're going to go somewhere else. And if worse comes to worse and they've decided that they are going to take your stuff by force, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to defend? How are you going to retreat? What are you going to do to protect your neighbors? And that's the kind of topics that are talked about in session 6. And we ask LAPD because they're the obvious experts, but hopefully everyone finds that one enlightening. And then finally, we do the first quarterly neighborhood drill for you. After you complete the 6 sessions, we set up a drill, help you out with it, help you organize it. And there's another slide. These drills are templated. These drills are designed to be lightweight, easy, and quick to plan. We want to have a location and a date and time, and then set up the drill and execute it without having to do months and months of planning. Those are the big drills. The yearly drills, when we have months and months of planning, we have moulage de victims, we have all sorts of simulated incidents. Those are the fun ones. But the quarterly drills, they need to be quick, dirty, get them up and running, set up the staging area, deploy out the teams, communicate over the radios, and execute the plan, execute the step-by-step guide. Once we do that over and over again, it becomes muscle memory. You do that in a few different neighborhoods. Then when the earthquake happens, you don't have to think about what you need to do. You've already trained on it. You default to your lowest level of training and understand, okay, this is just how we planned it, and this is how we're going to execute it. That yearly drill, we want to plan it around Great Shakeout, and I don't know that we'll be able to do it this year, but hopefully next year we will. We want all of our staging areas to go live at the same time, citywide. We want to have you set up your staging area, deploy out damage assessment teams, communicate over radios, execute your step-by-step guides, and then communicate up incidents. Let us know where you need help, because if we get people at the fire department command post, that is exactly what you're going to be doing. You're going to be sending your most critical incidents to them. They're going to let the fire department know. And without having cell phones that function, without having a 911 system that is operational, we're able to be from the boots on the ground, communicate up to the fire department and say, this is where we need help. This is where we need fire department resources, and let them figure out what they're going to do about it. Hopefully they'll get them to where you need them, because they want to help, but they're blind, just as blind as the rest of the city is. They don't know where to go. They don't know where they need to be. And that's where we become the force multipliers for the fire department. So the people behind the neighborhood team program, this program was created by CERT coordinators for CERT coordinators. It was designed to help our CERT coordinators have a standardized plan to be able to execute and work with their neighborhoods in. We set up a 501c3, the Community Disaster Preparedness Foundation. You can visit our website at disasterprep.org. And it is really made up, our board of directors are CERT coordinators, LAFD CERT coordinators, myself, Chin, Glenn Dollar, Tom Worth, John Gilbert, who's come on board as our alert wildfire coordinator. And then we also have our other geographic directors, Christy Adair for the Valley and Carl Ginsberg for the West Bureau. For those of you who are not part of the Point Fermin and you want to set up a neighborhood team program in your area, reach out to us. You have to reach out to us. We can't find you. Email us at info@ntp-la.org. And definitely, if you haven't yet, sign up at join.ntp-la.org so you can get our emails and that we can know where you are, so that we can find out where our trained people are and where we need to focus our efforts. All right. So hopefully that wasn't too overwhelming. We lost a few people, but any questions? Chin, did you have anything to add before we go to questions? Did we lose Chin? Chin, we maybe lost Chin. Okay.
It's me right here. I'm actually driving right now. Nothing to add. It sounds very comprehensive.
Great. Captain Grocery is still on with us. Did you have anything to add?
I am still here. Nothing to add at this time other than Patrick, amazing job, great explanation, Cristanta. I'm so glad you're part of it. And hopefully everyone realizes the true power of what you're explaining, the use. And myself as a young child, kind of growing up in an area where it was a small community cut off, and we had a very robust community team of doctors, contractors, others that would get together, knowing if we got cut off, we would be dependent on each other. And I feel that the fire department's always been my extension of community involvement, and whatever level you can be a part of is going to be very advantageous to you, your neighbors, and your family. So thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Captain. Cristanta, did you have anything to add?
Sorry, I couldn't get that mute button. And nothing to add. That was a great presentation. And again, I wanted to thank you, Patrick and Chin, Captain Gross, for inviting me and for having me here. And I saw some messages in the chat, so I will respond to those accordingly. I think they were directly to me. But is there any other questions about Ready Your LA Neighborhood or our department or our website that I can answer for anyone?
We'll go ahead and we'll take questions. If you can raise your hand, we'll take them in order. Gary, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Cristanta, hi, Gary Gilbert. We met in West Adams. So I'm listening to, I live in a neighborhood, Windsor Square, that has about 1,000 single family residences. And we as a neighborhood are trying to begin as a resilience program. And I was assuming we would begin with Ryland, and then I listened to a neighborhood team program, and I'm having a hard time distinguishing from how to begin. If one is to begin fresh, does it matter? Do they work on top of each other, next to each other? Can someone explain that?
So with the neighborhood team program, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're not creating a new program from scratch. We're bringing in Ready Your LA Neighborhood. We're bringing in CERT. We're bringing in Neighborhood Watch as core parts of the program, all integrated. If you're trying to get a Ryland group set up, we can help you out with that. We can put you in touch with Cristanta. Or if you want to start on do it yourself and you want to reach out to Cristanta yourself, that's perfectly fine. But we're here to facilitate and help make sure that you're working in the right direction. If that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Mary Ellen Barnes.
Yeah, Patrick, I wanted to ask you about that Discord.
Mm-hmm.
You said go sign up at join. NTP blah blah blah, which I did months ago, but I don't remember any Discord option at the time. If I just don't remember and I'm signed up, okay, but if I didn't sign up because it wasn't there at 6 months ago, can I go back in, or will I have to sign up again?
So we don't have a good technology right now to bring up a record and let you update it. Just go ahead and sign up again, mark that you were updating your record, put your information in again, and they'll give you the option to sign up for Discord.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And you're right, it is probably about, I want to say maybe about 5 months ago, we first introduced it.
Okay. All right.
Jennifer.
Thanks.
Jennifer, you're muted.
Oh, are you talking to me, Jennifer Hockey?
It says Jennifer's iPhone.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Jennifer Hockey, and I'm part of CERT, but I'm also part of Dovia, and I just wanted to kind of extend to anybody who's at this training who's interested in learning more about recruiting volunteers, organizing volunteers. We're having a training day this Friday, and we'd like to offer it for free to anybody who wants to join and use some of that training to get ready for building teams in your neighborhood. You can email me at jennifer@bvc.org to sign up. I can put it in the chat.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions, comments, editorials? Sound like Chin. Gary.
Good. Thank you. One more question for Crisanta. When you talked about the preparedness, is there also a section of Ryland that talks about the homes themselves and before the earthquake in terms of real preparedness of generators or water and batteries and everything? Like, is there a program that's going to help us not so much during the earthquake and after, but before?
So Ryland does not do that, simply because we found that when we started to introduce best practices or vendors or where we had some issues with recommending Home Depot over Lowe's or SOS over so the decision was made to not do that and just keep it a very general and provide general checklists of what you should have in your go bag or in your and of course what you should have in your Ryland bag to respond to your neighbors, and then also in your car bag. So we provide lists, but we no longer make recommendations. No.
I was talking about the list. Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you.
We have lists for pets, for your go bag, and then also for your Ryland. We have those on our website.
Okay, one more question while I have you. If we have a neighborhood that has 1,100 homes and we want to start Ryland, does it matter? Like, if we have 73 blocks in our neighborhood, and do we need to sort of get one rep on each block, or can we start without it? I'm trying to figure out the best process.
Right. So with that many homes, what you want to do is you want to kind of get with me on a video chat or on a call, and then give me one address, a couple of different addresses, so I can look at it on Google Map, and then you can tell me what the terrain looks like, if it's hilly, if it's canyon, or if it's straight street, and then we block off how many houses can you reach in an hour. Can you knock on, help people, get them up safety in an hour, and then we start mapping out, and then between you and I, we decide, okay, you need one person per Ryland area to host a workshop, not to be the leader, because it's a team approach. We don't want one person carrying the responsibility. And then that's where it would fall to you to help me identify those workshop hosts. And then you could also go to all the workshops and however you think it's easiest. But we found that that's easier than trying to present to everybody, because then they don't form a team.
Right. Are the workshop hosts online, or do they have to be done in person?
You can do it online. We have all the materials now. We've converted our website, so now we have all the materials are available virtually, and they can be downloaded right off of our website. You can do a Facebook Live meeting. You can do a Zoom meeting. And everything we have now is electronically fillable, or you can print them out for those that are not comfortable with that may have a technical divide and may need to write theirs out.
Great, thank you. I'll call you separately. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Chin, any final thoughts? Chin, if you can figure out how to unmute yourself. Carl Ginsberg, our West Bureau Coordinator. You have any thoughts here before we end this for tonight? All right, he might have already gone home for the night. Mary Ellen Barnes, since this is your Point Fermin area, did you have any final words?
I think the program sounds fabulous, and I want as many people in my neighborhood to come in and join as is possible. I just think this sounds like exactly what we all need. So I'm really, really excited. I'm gonna go to the Ryland site and get all that and get on my email and text tomorrow and start contacting my neighbors. So everybody who's here from Carolina Street and Peck, you're welcome. You'll be hearing from me.
Great. And that's exactly what we want out of our team leaders, is we want to empower you and help you and support you and be there for you, but we want to build the team around you.
Yeah.
Jason.
Hi, I actually wanted to kind of continue the Point Fermin neighborhood thing for just a second and ask that everybody that's on here that that hasn't been in touch with me or Mary Ellen Barnes, please do so either through this chat or Facebook, a number of places. We just want to make sure that we have as much information to get in touch with you as possible so that we can continue building this team and you know, expand beyond the couple of blocks that we have so far.
Yeah. There's Linda.
Yes. I'll be in touch with you, Mary Ellen.
Okay.
Jason.
That's great. And hopefully we can get you all onto the Discord channel and you can communicate, and then we can get other people onto their Discord channels and start building these teams citywide.
Yep. I was at Patrick's class on Saturday.
Oh, good.
For 6 hours. All morning.
Well, that was a drill.
Yeah,
that was a drill in the Grayburn area.
That was
so you get
very
to see kind of what we're. I mean, it's not going to be as advanced as what they put on in Grayburn for your drill, but November is the plan date after you complete this.
No, I think that's Alma Park, which is our next door neighbor. Because we won't finish our stuff till after the new year, till the start of the new year.
You're right, because you're just starting now. It's monthly.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we'll go to the Alma Park one anyway, because they're just our neighbors.
Mm-hmm. All right. Tomorrow is we have two big trainings every month. The third Wednesday of the month training, which is tomorrow, it's going to be on setting up staging areas and that initial response to a disaster. If you go to calendar.ntp-la.org, you can find the Eventbrite for that to sign up for it. That's going to be tomorrow at 7 p.m. And then next Wednesday, the fourth Wednesday of the month, is our two-way radio training. We highly encourage everybody to sign up for that and get experience. We put you into teams and give you scenarios, and you figure it out as a team what to do and then how to communicate that over the radio using Zello. Again, go to calendar.ntp-la.org and you'll find the Eventbrite for there, and you can sign up. All right. I'd like to thank everybody for attending, and we got 4 minutes left of your night. I'm returning to you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, Patrick. Thank you very much.
Night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much. Oh, dear. Blessings.